Hi, welcome to the Culture Curators Podcast. We're here to share insights, information, and resources to help you become a more effective salon and business leader. Hey everyone, welcome to our podcast. We're excited to come to you today. And I'm going to say the topic might not be a super sexy topic, might not be a topic that you're really thrilled about, but yet it's an essential part of our business that we must pay attention to. And that's our profit and loss statement, or better known as numbers, right?
Yep, absolutely. The P&L, the two scary words that so many owners are terrified of. We get our P&L generally from an accountant. We hardly ever look at it. We don't fully understand it. And understanding it is a key element to really impacting your bottom line, your overall profit, and you being really, really in touch with what a profit and loss statement is, how it helps you, and why you need to know how to read it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, the first thing is, oftentimes when we start working with clients, they say that they get their P&L and they get it one time per year. And that's it. And they usually get it after the fact. They usually get it several months after the fact. And the P&L, or profit and loss statement, is really designed to lead, guide, and direct you in your business choices, your business decisions. And in order to do that, you need to have that profit and loss statement monthly. It's really, really imperative, because not only is it imperative to receive it monthly if you're working with a bookkeeper or an accountant, but you need to analyze it. You need to understand what the profit and loss statement is all about. So really, our profit and loss statement is about money coming in, money going out, and hopefully money left over. Really, is the bottom line.
At the end of the day, that's the simplest term of it, right? And honestly, it's not as complicated as we tend to make it. And I think if you streamline with your accountant, and better yet, if you have a coach that you're working with, this should really be, it's actually shocking to us. We've worked with many people who have actually been coached by companies, and profit and loss statements never even were discussed and never came up. And it always baffles us because it's such a key element. It's kind of like a roadmap to, it's like flying blind without it. You don't really know what's happening for the business. You don't know what you're able to afford. It's key for when you're purchasing supplies or any kind of inventory, when you're hiring, what your payroll looks like, what your rent is looking like, what kind of money you need to generate in services and retail to help offset some of these other expenses. All these things are really, really key. And what we've done is we have a proprietary P&L that we created that creates like this really cool visual based off of benchmarks. And Jill really worked hard on helping set these benchmarks for each category. So for instance, your rent shouldn't exceed a certain percentage of your overall expenses. Your payroll shouldn't exceed a certain percentage of your overall expenses. And when it does, it starts to compromise the ability for the business to build profit. So on our profit and loss statement on the sheet itself, when it's in line with those benchmarks, there's these cells. It's like a spreadsheet. The cells turn green. And if you're not in line with it, the cells turn red. So just like with our scorecard, which is a goal setting that we've talked about on our one-on-one episode. So that kind of goes hand in hand together so that we help owners really start to take a fine-tooth comb and go through their business. And I think one of the biggest benefits that we found when we talk to owners about their profit and loss statement and getting really on board with this, we're actually working with someone new right now who's like really in it. We were getting text messages about it yesterday. This is the reality. It's not always going to make you happy, by the way. It's going to make you real and know what's going to happen and eventually how to make you happy by adding money to the bottom line. But one of the biggest things is it will help you and your accountant get on the same page. Because you need to direct what you need from your accountant, and we find many times that's not the case.
Yeah, because most accountants don't work with businesses like ours, with hair salons. There are accountants out there, bookkeepers out there that do specifically work with hair salons, and if you want more information on that, we have a couple of names that we'll certainly be happy to share with you if you DM us, not a problem at all. But let's talk about it. Most people focus on what's coming into the business or the sales of the salon. They're looking at the service sales, they're looking at the retail sales, and that's all they're focused on. And let me tell you, we've seen and we've worked with $1 million salons who have no profit, and we've worked with $200,000 salons that have a really healthy profit. So it is about what's coming in, and it's really important that we work on increasing our service sales and our retail sales. Super, super important. But I get really, really excited about trying to conserve expenditures. So I'm taking a look at every category, and I'm looking at where are we overspending, where are those cells turning red, because red is like stop, you need to pay attention to this category because you're overspending in this area, and where is it and who is it that we can talk to conserve our expenditures. So I tell you, and I share this story all the time, I had an insurance policy, and on the insurance policy, there was a category and a payment for a terrorist attack. And I'm like, you know what, if a terrorist comes and attacks, we're probably not going to be around. So I don't want that on my policy. So I conserved a little bit of money on that. I looked at it. What would happen if I increased my deductible to $5,000? I've never had to make a claim, so why do I have it at $1,000? Maybe I should raise it to $5,000. But here's the key with that. You have to make sure that you would have $5,000 should you need to pay it out. It's really, really critical. So if you're not cash flowing, then maybe it's not a great idea to go to a $5,000. Maybe you want to stick with $1,000. But there are areas. We talk to the credit card companies all the time. How can you reduce the credit card fee? And listen, it doesn't matter if you're passing that credit card fee on to your guest or client, or you're absorbing it yourself. If there's a way to conserve money, that's what we want to do. What is it that we can do? Can we talk to our internet company? Can we talk to our payroll company? Payroll companies, I'm sorry, but are notorious for raising their rates without letting you know. You have like an initial contract that might be 6 months, might be a year, I don't know. And if you don't put that on your calendar to go back and relook at that and notify them, your rates will automatically go up. Fast forward, if you're not doing your P&L and you're not analyzing it, a whole year has gone by or more, and you've overpaid in payroll. And that's all you have to do is make that phone call, research the different companies, and I promise you, they will give you a deal. There are ways to reduce expenditures that you're not looking at, that you need to start looking at, and I just get really, really excited about finding ways to conserve money for you, because any money that you conserve, you get a choice. Either it goes to the bottom line, which ultimately comes into profit, or you can put it back into your business. But why give it away if you don't have to?
Yeah, there's so many categories that you really need to pay attention to, but there's going to be a few key ones that are going to be the lion's share of what your expenses look like on a monthly basis, right? Number one is going to be your payroll. Number two is generally going to be your rent. Number three is probably going to be your color supplies and back bar. And then and again, that's not going to be the same for everyone, but generally those would be in the top three probably. And then you're going to have some other things as well. If you're extension heavy, it might be in extension supplies, but in general, those three things are going to take up a large lion's share. And then, of course, you need to look at, what is your software charging you? Is there an option for either changing or reducing? Do you have a great rewards program with the supply company or color company you're working with that you can purchase back bar with points as opposed to dollars? Things like that that can really help conserve. Do you have an ATM in your business that you own that you can then have clients utilize, that maybe they tip only in cash and you don't put that on the credit cards? There's a bunch of different ways that you can make sure that you're being, it's not just being creative, it's just being smart about what's coming in, what's going out, and how to minimize what's going out. We talk to a lot of our clients about turning cost centers in the salon into profit centers. One I just mentioned, like having an ATM. Jill mentioned talking to the credit card companies and asking for a reduced rate. A lot of times it just takes a simple call, conversation, and a request. And we have in our calendar actually recurring every 6 months, just do a check-in with our payroll company and our credit card companies and see where we're at. And it's a great way to, again, keep a running rapport, keep relationships happening so that you can be in control of your expenses and finances.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have budgets for inventory. We do have budgets for back bar, and we look at those really seriously, and we hold the line to that because we know those have to be in line in order to have the profit that you want. And so if you know that, gosh, you've run out of something and you have to go to the supply company, and you have to purchase something, and you have a very hard time going in and purchasing only what it is you need or only what's on your list. How many of you can identify as one of those people? I can, for sure. And so if you know that about yourself or about whomever, don't send yourself. Don't send the person that's going to overspend. I had an inventory specialist, and she would never allow me to go to the supply houses because I would always come back with, 15 bags filled with stuff that we didn't need, but I thought was kind of cool and I wanted to try it, when we only really needed 2 bags. But she was very, very aware of what the budget was. So that's a tip, that if you're not doing inventory, whether it's back bar or retail, make sure that you have the budget, and make sure that the person doing it has the budget. And to me, that's not negotiable. So if you come out and you're $100 over your budget on retail reordering, then you need to make choices to reduce your order by $100. It just is that simple. You're doing this now, and it may be hard to do it now, but you're really doing it for the big picture and for the future.
Yeah. And what do you typically recommend? Let's talk about budget for a second. What would you recommend on the supply budget for back bar? And then what do you recommend on your retail budget?
Well, retail budget in our P&L, you have up to 52% that you can use from your past retail purchases. So say you had $1,000 that you spent on retail. The reality is we budget 50% or $500 in this example to repurchase your inventory, and then we give you 2% for those small instances that you would want to get some props for the retail center. It might be some POP displays, point of purchase displays, it might be some acrylic holders or something like that. But generally speaking, the majority of the salons that we work with don't utilize that 2%. And so I would say the budget for whomever's doing the retail is 50% of the retail products sold for that period of time. Now you can choose if you're going to replenish weekly, bi-weekly, bi-monthly, or monthly. It's really up to you, and part of that is dependent upon how much retail you sell and how big your business operation is. But when I say weekly or bi-monthly, just keep in mind that there may be shipping and handling charges or service charges with that. And again, that's an area that's worth negotiation with your distributors.
Yeah,
they certainly may help you out with that. I know some of mine did and some of them didn't.
Exactly.
And then it's up to us whether or not we want to play ball with them.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. You have to do your research. I know we get really attached and really connected to the product brands and color, of course, that we work with.
Right.
And, changing that is not a simple thing by any means. But looking at what the options are and what the company's doing for you, it's not just about what you're purchasing from the company. It's about, it's a it's a two-way relationship. So it's getting them to also get on board with what you need. And you vocalizing that. And again, just like we said with the credit card thing, it just takes a question. There could be a no. You don't know what the answer will be, but you definitely won't know it if you don't ask it.
Well, it's always a no if you don't ask.
Yeah.
So you might as well ask, You spoke about back bar budgets.
Mm-hmm.
We want to stay around 8% for our back bar budget. Most of that's going to be in color supplies. We want our color supply to be about 5%. Now you're asking 5% of what or 8% of what? And that's of your service dollars for that time period. So if you're ordering color, let's say monthly, what were your service sales last month? Take 5% of that. That's your budget for the month. And I promise you, I would say that probably 95% of the businesses that we work with, when they first came on board with us, this is a key area that they were overspending. Some of them were 12% or 15%. That's 10% more than what we need. And you know what? The reality is I had a coaching company that I worked with when I had the salon, my first coaching company that I worked with, meaning I hired them to work with me. And I'll never forget, he said, Jill, I want you to come back here. And I went back to a room and he said, look around. And the room had a lot of shelves. I mean, a lot of shelves. And of course, what do you think the shelves were? Were they empty or were they plumb full? They were stocked. They were so full. And he said, just take a look around. I want you to visit your money because this is where all your money is. And he was right. He was really, really right. And so we have to make choices. We know as colorists that there's like 10 different ways to come out with the same color. Is it the best or easiest? Not necessarily, but sometimes we have to make difficult choices. And by keeping track and doing your inventory on a regular basis, you start to see trends within your organization. And so you may not need to have 10 of 2 in.
Right.
You may need to have 15 of 7 in. And you'll start to see those trends and you'll start to identify where you can conserve in color and where you need to continue to spend. And if you're constantly running out of a certain color, you know that that's a sign that you're going to have to up it by 1 or 2 until you stop running out. The goal is not to run out. The goal is not to have your employees be like, oh my God, how am I going to mix this color? I don't have any color back here. That's not the goal. The goal is to stay within the budget and to be able to identify the needs within that budget of your team.
Yeah, and if you're finding that, you're down to 3 tubes of something, and that's when you're placing the order, well, then what happens is those 3 tubes are just always sitting there. If they're never getting used.
Right?
Like, it's good to be down to the last 1 or 2
Yeah.
when the order cycle is happening. That means that you're ordering consistently and on time. And I know even for me, I've had to make that mental adjustment where it's like, even mentally, sometimes I just want more lightener there just so it makes me feel better. But if it's not getting used, then what the heck is the point of that, right? So
why do you need lightener to make you feel
for what?
better?
It made me feel better that it's like, it's this silly mental thing where it's like,
Right.
well, God forbid, we run
right.
out. And I think that you have to let the numbers dictate the decision, not the emotion, like we've talked about on other episodes as well. So I just went through a transition with someone where moving someone into inventory, and this is what we did. We kind of recalibrated together over the last month or so, and we allowed things to kind of deplete more than we normally would, so we could see what the usage looked like, and we could get a better feel for, okay, what are we over ordering on, what are we overspending on, what do we need to make sure, what are we ordering really well, and you just stay consistent that way. Also, there's a ton of technology out there now that you can utilize for color mixing, for color inventory, for product usage, and that's a phenomenal way as well to just automate it and really use technology to your advantage that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I hope that you get excited about numbers, because numbers truly can be sexy and they can be really fun. And, clarity is the first thing. You need to know your numbers in order to improve them and to gain clarity. And like we spoke about, we're just working with a new client and she's going through her P&L and she's doing an amazing job. And one of the text messages came across the other day saying that I have a spending problem. I overspend. That's clarity, my friends. That's clarity, and that's what you want. And so the great news is she has clarity now. She realizes that she overspends, and now she gets to do something about it. And that's the beauty of working with your profit and loss statement. So I'm excited for you guys to dive into your numbers, get a new working relationship with them, and see where it brings you on that bottom line.
Absolutely. Until next time, everybody, have a wonderful rest of the day, and thank you so much for watching and listening. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Culture Curators podcast. Please like, comment, follow, and subscribe.